Hey there, welcome to episode 2025-12-2001 of the Coffee Solo audio program. In case you need help decoding that, that's Saturday, December 20th, 2025. That's today. Well, this is episode 1 of that day, so 2025-12-20-01. And we are recording this at 2:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here in the Greater Vegas area. I'm your host, Dan Hugo, as usual. Today, I've titled this episode Fandom Slop. Fandom Slop. If you're not familiar with the term fandom, I will describe what I think it means. I don't know that it's changed. I think I get it from the Fandom Menace days. If you're not familiar with the Coffee Solo audio program, it is a program I publish whenever. There's no schedule. About whatever. There's no particular topic or focal area. And I used to publish it exclusively on Ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com. You can pronounce it coffee as well. I think they probably intend that, but it's ko-fi.com/danhugo/posts, which is one of the links I will describe shortly. So I used to publish this there exclusively. I figured, that would be something to use this platform for since I've had my account on Ko-fi.com for 5 years or something. And in fact, I keep saying this. While we're talking here, let me try to see, because I keep saying 5 years and I don't know if it's 5 years. Not now. No browser notifications, please. Settings. I don't even know where to look for profile, about me. No. Page, payment. I don't think it's going to tell me. Oh well. I'll try to find the confirmation email perhaps. Anyway, so I used to publish it there exclusively, hence the name, Coffee Solo, just me talking into a microphone. And then I thought, you know what, there's no RSS feed, so how am I supposed to integrate this into the podcast world? So I still publish it there first, but not exclusively. And I have made my danhugo.com homepage the place where you would find this, and also don't forget buymeacoffee.com/danhugo, where you will find the Buy Me an Update audio program published under similar circumstances. I used to publish that on Monday mornings, 5 minutes or less. It's all good, but same problem. Buy me a coffee, no RSS feeds. Add to that, there was a couple of days, including on a Monday morning, when I could not publish to buymeacoffee.com/danhugo/posts. So I contacted support, and they're like, "Oh no, why? What did you try reinstalling your operating?" The typical production by a street, if you can hear that. The typical script from technical support people. Did you leave your house and come back in? Did you cycle the power in your neighborhood? Yeah. So I figured, you know what? I don't like having to depend on buymeacoffee.com since it's not a great website. It's just well known at this point. So I still use it. I still keep it as a place to, like, an external vector that points to all my stuff. So it's still there. And I think 5 people have contributed to the tip jar of sorts. Not that nobody's required to do that. Neither are you. But I figured, if anybody's looking for, it's another place where a search engine might find, where is the Let's Innovate for Vegas audio program, or what's the YouTube channel for FFS Talk, etc. So all those links are there, and some project links and some affiliate links and so on. So anyway, I don't know why I felt the need to say all this. I've got an outline, which I've only done about 1 sentence per bullet item. So I didn't write too much. So today's going to be much more ad hoc. Ideally, I will move towards much more ad hoc or spontaneous ramblings. Now, hopefully they'll be coherent, because I really want to get Hugo Floss going as a video stream and have more interaction and hopefully guests on that one. And that will fit nicely into the MuniBits project, the information sharing platform that I would like to deploy here in Vegas. That's a work in progress, actual software development. Why not just use WordPress? Well, there are reasons aplenty for that. When I actually get it up and running, I'll probably talk about that more. Why be innovative? Why not just use the junk that everybody's using? Don't do something new. Use something old that's got all of its bugs identified and taken advantage of, and certainly new ones coming. But anyway, yeah, getting found, getting discovered, building up the listener audience. I mean, I don't monetize these, so it's really just receipts for the future. And especially this episode is really more practice. And if somebody finds it interesting, great. But it is useful, I think, to create a program kind of on the fly without so much preparation. So I wrote this outline, and as is always the case, I had all these things in mind. So I said, oh, I'll just jot them down so I don't forget. Sometimes, and for my other programs, I do a lot more script preparation. I do like a bulleted talking points list with about probably like 3 or 4 sentences of what I want to say specifically. And I often will read that, but I will often kind of, as if I'm standing behind me, and I'll go, oh, but what about that other thing? So I kind of interrupt myself, or I'll just add stuff in on the fly there too. So kind of, it's already happening, but there we go. So Fandom Slop, the cover art is some lava lamps. If you don't know what a lava lamp is, too bad. So the summary, I think, captures why I chose that. So bubbling to the top today is the ever-growing lava lamp-like bolus of slop, generated at many times the rate of the stuff fans might actually like, or dislike for that matter. I got a Black Friday price on I think it was 3 months of Apple TV through Prime. And I barely watch Amazon Prime anymore, but I have it. So I saw some sort of promotion. Oh, get Apple TV for, I can't remember if it's 3 months or 4 months or something, for like half price or $3 or $4 or whatever it was. And I said, oh, and they had a promo, like watch the first episode for free thing for Pluribus. And I was like, oh, that actually looks kind of interesting. And then this promotion shows up and I'm like, oh, I guess I'll give it a go, see what happens, see how this show goes. Now, I have to say, I've never seen Breaking Bad. I've never seen Better Call Saul. I didn't know anything about the Gilligan guy. I mean, I know the shows are popular and all that stuff. And I've certainly seen some retrospectives or some commentary. I've never watched reaction videos, and I've never watched any episodes. So I kind of know the story, but that's about it. I didn't know anything about the style, the structuring and whatnot. So I'm hearing that, oh, this is structured sort of like, or there's never anything accidental. The license plate means this, the color means that, the fact that this happened and then that happened right after and it was right behind there. And so all these things are to be picked apart. And I'm like, I don't know if I like doing that. So that'll be the first thing we talk about. That's why I chose this as the title. But yeah, Phantom Slop, lava lamps. I just envision garbage bubbling up to the top. And so that's what today's topic is, because it's at the top. A lot of AI slop, hence the Phantom Slop. The links we've already gone through. First available this episode and all Ko-fi solo episodes on Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/danhugo/posts, in case you forgot from 3 minutes ago. And you can find these posts there, and then they get published through Spotify for creators to Spotify, Apple, Amazon, YouTube. I don't think this one's on iHeartRadio. I got to go through it. You know what? It is a pain. It is a pain to get your audio programs on some platforms. Other platforms, they just go, oh, here's another one. Throw it in the mix. That is one thing I kind of like about the podcast index that Adam Curry et al. Have been driving. I'm not a huge fan of their RSS extensions that they're doing. I think RSS is kind of limping along. I appreciate the reasoning, and I've never met Dave Weiner. I met his brother, who looks just like him, and we were talking about RSS and whatnot, sort of adjacent. But I understand the reasoning, and I understand how Dave Weiner and Adam Curry kind of connected on this, like, oh, this would be totally cool and it would work, and it does work, and that's fine. But honestly, I think the RDF approach, even though some people are like, it's too much of a pain, in this modern era, because RDF, or more appropriately, the semantic web, or structured data, or network graphs, or knowledge graphs, these are all making a comeback in the AI era. I think, and there was an RSS 3 attempt, but I kind of think that some sort of modern take that would integrate in with ActivityPub, because activity streams make use of graphs, right? Graph vocabularies would fit in nicely there. So yeah, I think RSS. I'm not against RSS. I think it's, for what it is, it does great. But I think we could take advantage of some modernity, and we could introduce relations and how particular feeds fit together. This OPML stuff, I do not care for. That one can go, but that's how people share their blog roll or their list of subscriptions for podcasts. It's kind of hinky. So I've never really been a fan of OPML. I think we could do better. If you are in the, but it's good enough camp, then that's fine, and that's true. But if you've ever looked at how credit card transactions take place, you'd be like, "What? Wait, why are they using bit fields for the transaction protocol on the wire?" And you're like, because it works. It's been working for decades. Why change it, right? So, yeah, just like the ACH. The ACH is still around for now. We'll see. So, yeah, I would like to see RSS mature a little bit and move back towards, because RSS 1, or actually RSS 0.91, I think it was RDF site syndication. And then they changed it to really simple syndication for RSS 2, which was XML based instead of being RDF. I guess they were using XML. Yeah, they were using XML for that, but it wasn't. It had all the RDF stuff in the XML files, but XML is fairly flexible. When you go to RSS 2.0 and you got the XML for that, that's also fine. But if you wanted to do, there have been these projects like, oh, what if we do RSS JSON or RSS in other formats? And you're like, well, it turns out to be kind of a pain. But if you're using standard RDF structures, the resource description framework, say you maintain your sources in, pick something, XML. Is it XML? Yeah, they just have XML. There's JSON LD. You can store it as, if you wanted to serialize it, you can serialize it to notation 3. You store it in a graph database, so you can serialize it to notation 3 or XML or JSON LD, or what is it called? Microdata. You can embed it as attributes in an HTML file. So you could make an RSS feed that's readable. You could embed it in HTML. You could also embed, now you could kind of do this with XML anyway, but you could embed the graph of episodes. So you could be looking at a page like, oh, hey, I'd like to subscribe to this series of podcasts. And you'd be able to find not only other episodes if they were in different places, or maybe other shows. You would just have graph edges that would point to other nodes, right? And the other nodes could be in other series of programs and so on. And if you look at schema.org, there's some useful vocabulary elements already in there for, is it podcast? Is it podcast? Podcast episode, podcast channel, something like that. Anyway, I just think some of that stuff would be pretty cool. In the meantime, you can go to my homepage, danhugo.com, and you'll find links to Coffee Solo and Buy Me an Update. So those will not receive their own homepages because they're kind of one-off. I mean, everything I'm doing is one-off, but there are pages for Quaggling Sand, FFS Talk, and Cafe Genius Impresarios, and then Innovate for Vegas. Let's Innovate for Vegas has the Innovate for Vegas Foundation collection of websites. So that's all kind of taken care of. So Coffee Solo and Buy Me an Update are sort of cousins, and they appear on danhugo.com. And, I really need to get my damn websites looking better. I've spent zero time on anything having to do with design for any of the websites I just referred to. So I need to do that. It's on the list. It's been on the list. I keep saying it's on the list. The list never gets shortened. I never execute on the things that are on the list that I really want to do. And I actually just did an episode of Cafe Genius Impresarios on stall recovery, because to be frank, I feel stalled on some of those to-do items, and I'm like not making progress, and then you kind of lose your motivation, or like, why am I doing this? Does anybody even want to visit any of these websites? The web traffic says no. So the question then becomes, if I make them look better, will people visit? If I see increases in numbers, will I feel compelled to make them look better? Is the ongoing collection of things I really want to work on going to benefit by executing? Well, that is yes, actually. If I put the work in on these, does it affect the other things I'm working on? Yes, because I have a methodology and some tools that I'm working on or have designed anyway. So I should be working on them and then implement my static site template scheme that also works for dynamic, and then go from there. So, okay, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Anyway, let's get on with the, so profile page linking, everything. We already talked about that. Check that out. And if you visit the Ko-fi.com site, you will only see 2 links because you already know that you're seeing it on Ko-fi.com. I pronounce it Ko-fi.com because it's spelled Ko-fi, a fun spelling of coffee. So, where shall we begin? My voice is. So I had my cappuccino probably about 2 hours ago now. I normally do it. I normally make the coffee and have it after I've produced whatever episode of whatever program I'm producing on whatever day. This day I was not lazy. What is it when I just I didn't do that? So I had my coffee already, which does not help with my voice. The dairy, not a good idea. But coffee black doesn't really work either. So such is life. To be honest, and I haven't talked about this forever, but I've really left my, what is it called? Nasal fresh. Yeah, that's it. I've really left my nasal fresh to languish in my restroom, and I really gotta bust it out and put it to work again. I think it was actually it was a very positive impact on the quality of my voice and my breathing and my nasal pathways and whatnot. So pure laziness on my part. Pluribus, or Plur One Bus, if you like, PLUR1BUS on Apple TV. It's the big one lately. I think the penultimate episode was on Friday, and the big news that Apple TV put out, I think it was sometime on Friday, they said the final episode of the season finale, will be released early, not on Friday, given the holidays. And so the finale will be out very soon. I don't know exactly which day, whatever. I'll catch it. So Pluribus is one, but I'm going to say that the same exact thing was happening with Alien Earth, which unfortunately was renewed for a second season. That one I was profoundly disappointed in. Pluribus, still on the fence. It's looking interesting. It's certainly creative. I think for me it is. I don't know. Some people say, "Oh, this is pretty standard." If you watched Breaking Bad, some of the beats are similar, the style, the approach, the story architecture, all that. Okay, I've never seen it, so we're okay. And this happens with other programs. I don't know. I also watched Severance, both seasons on Apple TV. By the way, season 1 was amazing. That was really impressive and creative. Production value is super high, like really, really, really interesting. Second season, I found myself wondering, is this going to be like X-Files? Like, are we opening up too many little side stories and the history of the family and the intrigue, palace intrigue and other intrigue? So, I'm more than a little concerned that if I get into that series, first of all, they're going to start filming it next year, or recording it. So season 3 won't even be out until 2027. By then, I don't know if I'll care. It's like if an X-Files movie, I think they talked about rebooting X-Files, right? If an X-File movie or series comes out today, I'd be like, I barely remember it at this point. But what I'm seeing, so first of all, Fandom, I think this kind of sprang up from the Star Trek, actually Star Trek too, Star Trek also. But I think it really started with Star Wars, but it definitely also came out with Star Trek. So both of those, but I think it started with Star Wars when they did the prequel. Already got the prequel 3 with George Lucas actually involved with them. Already got smashed a little bit. They got a little bit of like, what? Nobody cares about the politics and the galactic intrigue of Star Wars, and like, well, That's the way it is. But when what do they call him? Jar Jar Abrams. So when he did 2, and then the other guy, the Knives Out guy, the Glass Onion guy, what's his name? Anyway, when the 3 sequels came out to complete the 9 episode whatever of Star Wars. By the way, I saw Star Wars in 1977 when it was just Star Wars. So even though I occasionally mistakenly say Star Trek and Star Wars, I was early with I was very young, but I was totally into Star Trek when I was a kid, Star Wars. So that's me just getting old, but I do know they are not the same. But anyway, so Star Wars, when the sequel trilogy came out, people were freaking out at how bad it was. Continuity errors and losing the plot and all that. And by the way, I will say, for example, when people freak out, you can't, that's not how hyperspace works. You can't have this. You can't. I'm like, do people in that mindset, do they look at biplanes from World War One and then like, how are they even flying aircraft with less than 3 wings for a triplane? What's with the jets? You can't have missiles. That's not canon, right? So that's kind of dumb, right? Time passes, technologies evolve, discoveries are made, and so on. But everybody was super critical of the stories. Then they were doing these script rewrites or script doctoring. Right? Here's how I would have done it. I'm like, okay, fine. So that got really old, and there's a bunch of people that were just making so much noise that there was actual vitriol flying all over the place. And it's like, not interesting. But the fandom, because that kind of stuff generates click revenue, and you get views, you get clicks, you get all kinds of new subscriptions, and you get people chiming in, and you get people excited, like, yeah, I want to jump on this bandwagon and complain about everything. Or not. I want to complain about the complaining, or I want to argue with the arguers. So you get this whole riled up thing going. So I don't know if that's the root cause. Maybe it's the reaction video environment, or maybe it's purely farming for traffic. But now everybody does within seconds of an episode of any show, or any movie for that matter, but any show, episode 3 breakdown, or episode 3 ending explained. And you're like, I'm still watching episode 3. What is going on here? So, and it's almost like if anybody is old enough to remember when there would be a presidential address, for example, and then there'd be a response from the opposite party, and then some sort of panel of talking heads from any particular news channel when we had terrestrial television. They would interpret what the president and or the response said, so they would discuss it, but the joke was always, that thing you just heard? Well, let me say it to you again. Let me explain it to you. So that's kind of what you get with the episodes just as soon as they end. And it gets a little annoying. But what I'm starting to see now, and you see this just in general, like, oh, there's not enough stuff to talk about. So now you start to see the same channel, whichever they are, I don't really care. They'll do like a wrap up of the current episode, and then they'll do predictions for the following, what could happen or what could this mean? So then they start doing like 2, 3, 4 speculative episodes, and they're basically re-speculating based on so if episode 2 meant let's speculate for episode 3 and where the series might be going, episode 3 comes out, so now let's tune our speculations, but we'll leave the other one up. So now you end up with like 3 or 4 episodes per channel per episode of the normal show, whatever the show is. It's like, you're clicking for revenue, and people that are interested in this stuff, and I watch them because I'm curious to see what people are trying to come up with, and it's just absolute garbage. And it's garbage because every time there's a new episode that comes out, the old stuff stays up, like I said, because you got to have that channel volume. So you end up watching how wrong they were if you want, right? So if you want to spend some time, don't spend a lot of time. If you want to spend some time, all you have to do is look at the same channel and go back 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And you're like, they were totally wrong. They totally didn't get it. They didn't catch the important thing. For Pluribus, I did catch one guy who he made a connection to an old TV series. I'll just say that. And so I saw that, and then I was like, you know what? That's really interesting. I kind of had a feeling like there was something like that may have been afoot. And So yeah, that kind of makes sense. Like, oh, interesting, interesting. So his theories were like, they raised my eyebrow. Interesting, interesting. But that's okay. I don't need to know. I'm not waiting for people to tell me what I should think about the show, but his observations were interesting. I was like, oh, okay. That's a rarity. But like when Alien Earth came out, every week, people were not only trying to figure out what they just saw so they could explain it to people for traffic, but then like the first episode was pretty good, I think. I think it was episode 5 that did the prequel to episode 1. So it explained what was happening on the ship and all that. But generally speaking, every week, episode would come out, there'd be a wrap up, and then there'd be people just tearing it apart. Like literally, if you thought the fandom menace of Star Trek and Star Wars, and by the way, Star Trek is when also J.J. Abrams did the Kelvin timeline, like true Trekkie people. Robert Meyer Burnett, of course, is the leader of that clan, I think. We're like, get the pitchforks and the torches. This is not Star Trek anymore. And they've continued along that line with Discovery, which was not a good show. And Picard, everybody was excited by the third season. I thought all of it sucked. And so on and so on. So there's the fandom menace applies to these two franchises in particular, but it's also it's snaking around other things. So there are people that are like, oh, I have a channel. I want to get traffic. I will comment on the popular thing, and I will offer my theories, my conjecture, my review, my story wrap up, my timeline summary. You can get a lot of episodes out of one single episode of a particular show, and if it's popular, hey, the algorithm will love you. But I'm just shocked at how awful these are. Alien Earth was a bad show, so people were having some fun with just tearing into it. Pluribus is pretty good. I'm amazed at how many people did not bother to look up what pluribus meant. So so they don't do the basic, like, oh, let me just Google that real quick. So some people have made up things and you're like, that's not even what that means. That's not, or if you watched the episode and you didn't spend all your time creating content around it, you'd have noticed that what you just said doesn't make any sense. So I think the show, Pluribus, is well written, well produced. I think it's a little bit over. Now, I understand why. I mean, it's really hyper-focused on the one character. I watched Severance, both seasons in there. I was like, Severance is so different a show, and it's so able to have these different characters. Each character has two different halves to them. They did a really interesting job of interleaving different stories, different character storylines, different character developments, and so on. I was like, this is interesting. But then season 2 kind of went off the rails a little bit, so we'll see. But I think what we end up with is people are in such a rush to produce these YouTube episodes or whatever. I don't really do TikTok anymore, so nor should anyone. But there's such a rush to get those clips out, or to get the shows out with the clips and whatnot. People do a nice job editing stuff in, however they're doing it. But there are some channels that are literally, I think, AI slop. I think the voices are generated and the script is probably written by some AI, generative AI. So it's getting to be garbage. And I think this is just the way things are going to be for a while. So if you're a fan of any of these shows or movies, any of these intellectual properties, you're going to have to wade through these. I mean, it's almost like tickling your political ideology. Like, oh, you're a fan of Star Wars, huh? Here are 48 episodes across different channels and different, plotline theories and reviews and wrap-ups and summaries and character profiles and backstory speculation. And so you can just go nuts creating content around this stuff. And you basically have the fans by the fernoots, as my Italian relatives used to say. So yeah, it's gross. I'm not happy. Not happy with it at all. But speaking of Apple TV, I'm almost done. I figured I'm going to hold off and watch it like when I can actually watch it. The final episode of the first season of Your Friends and Neighbors, which is over-the-top dark comedy. I used to say of Silicon Valley was not realistic from the sense that you cannot have everything happen to the same company, same, Pied Piper. You cannot have everything happen to those four guys. All the things in that whole series of HBO Silicon Valley, all those things happen to some degree at some time. Maybe not as extreme, but I've heard stories, or some of them are a little bit more public, or oh yeah, okay, that kind of stuff was happening, but not everything happening to the same four people. So that to me was just silly, but it was satirical, right? That's the tone of the show. It's not meant to be taken as a documentary. So I was like, okay. I never used to watch the show until I was traveling for Intel, and I'd be in a hotel room that had HBO, because I didn't even bother, because I was barely home for 2 years. So I didn't even have any channels or any nothing. I would watch YouTube videos, and then I got to go to the airport again. So if I was in a hotel and they had HBO and it was on, I could catch an episode. Great. And then somehow at some point there was HBO streaming, so that you could select. So, I mean, some hotels, I think it was just on whatever their cable situation was, but somehow I was able to stream it. And then I had my Amazon Prime stuff. So I was like, oh, okay, I can add HBO. And so eventually I started watching the episodes, and I actually went through and watched the entire series through all of the seasons. So I watched them all. So when I was traveling, I watched it now and then, and I was like, oh, that's fine. Oh yeah, I know that happened to somebody many years ago. So yeah, none of that stuff would happen to one 4-person startup all, the whole time, like everything happening to them. So that made it sort of silly. And then one time this startup here in Vegas, they were making drone related stuff. They said, oh, we watch Silicon Valley every week. It's like a documentary. I'm like, no, it isn't. No, it is not. Anyway, TV or video entertainment is getting weird. I'm not a fan of AI generated anything. I think it's getting less and less obvious that it's AI generated until you really give it a good listen. So you're not really hearing the was it Notebook LM, Google Notebook LM, that would like generate an audio summary of something, and it would generate a 2-person, 1 man, 1 woman conversation as if they were doing a podcast together, and be like, hey, what? And I created one for our Innovate for Vegas Foundation contributing document that you find in repositories now. So, hey, you want to contribute to this project, whatever we're working on? Here's the rules of the road. And it's several pages because we're a nonprofit corporation and all this stuff. So it's probably overboard, but I'm like, let me just see what this would do with it. They try to make the contributing document sound like it's the hot topic of the day. Oh, have you checked out the contributing document over? Like, it's ridiculous. So some of that is still floating around in some of the slop that people are producing for any online media. Yeah, it's pretty grotesque, but some of it's getting a little bit better. But you can totally pick up on the mispronunciation of words. And the deal with that, I'm gathering, is that you really have to go phonetic, or you have to write words out. Someone at some point said, oh, for example, if you got a percent symbol, you want to write out PERCENT. You don't want to have a symbol in there that could be confusing. You want to write out abbreviations like Mr. or Captain, or anything that we normally would take as it's a MR. That means Mr. MRS, Mrs. So you never know what you're going to get. And then some proper names, you'll hear it pronounced in different ways by the same generated voice. You're like, oh, okay. So really it depends on how much effort goes into producing the slop. Some people are better at it. Some people are just churning out content as fast as they can. I heard that at least one startup is producing like 4,000 episodes of crap podcasts every day. I'm like, So hopefully the value of human creation, like this episode, hopefully that will be recognized over time and people will eschew the garbage. But I don't know. LinkedIn is all garbage right now, so who can say? Speaking of, I don't know if you probably did too. I received far too many year-end wrap things, like wrap up. I received one for each of my Spotify programs. One of them was like, hey, you won an award for whatever. I'm like, for what? This is ridiculous. There's a LinkedIn wrap up. There's what else? What else have I received lately? Was there a Blue Sky wrap up? I don't really use Blue Sky anymore. I don't know. I've received several emails for different things. I'm like, who cares? Who cares about this stuff? So I don't know why those suddenly became popular across the board, but everybody's like, you got to figure out what you did this year. and we're going to tell you, and we're going to show you what have I done? You will know what you have done. So I don't know why that would be appealing, but I did. So that has led me to think, okay, for next week, 22 through 26 of December, I can do my own wrap-ups. I can do my end retrospective episodes of each of my programs because, first of all, I can't imagine people are going to be listening. Maybe they'll listen after the holidays, but I don't want to have a dark week because why not? I can create some episodes. That's fine. But also, I should be able to do my own. And rather than see, one of the things about these wrap-up episodes is they just take the window through which you are looking, where the window is this platform. So like, hey, here's your LinkedIn year in review. You're like, yeah, you're only talking about the things that happened on LinkedIn, which I don't care about. Oh, here's your Spotify year in review. Yeah, I produced all those episodes. I was there for all of them. I don't need, but what I think would be more interesting, and I can, obviously you can create content around the theme of your show if you're doing what I'm planning to do. Yeah. No, production by Street. For Let's Innovate for Vegas Foundation, for example, things have happened through the year in general, right? So some of them I've talked about in the podcast episodes, some of them I have not. But there's a reflection or retrospective on what took place over the year and how that will shape the following year, how it's left our organization in the state that it's in now, like how did we get here kind of thing, and what's coming next based on that, and so on. So you can do a retrospective that isn't limited to the audio, like, hey, here's our 1 year retrospective based only on these audio program episodes. That's kind of silly. So the audio program, the podcast, is the place where I can describe the things that happened during the year for our nonprofit. Or Quaggling Sand, I can talk about, what I have learned by telling stories every week about myself in the past half century or so. FFS Talk probably will be a quick, like a rundown of how many, like the kind of the focal area, because FFS Talk is supposed to be some seeds planted for future debates or conversations along the theme, which is what works, what doesn't, what can we do about it. So usually, every episode thus far has been what would I say that we could do about it? So the whole idea is to say, well, if you have heard something interesting and you have a different idea, we can talk about it. So I'd like to see that happen more. So I can kind of do a breakdown of like, 80% of the topics are about social media or politics. I just made that up. I don't know. So yeah, to me, it makes more sense to create your own retrospective. So if somebody were to take their various wrap-up packages they received from, did I get one from, I can't remember who else sent me, like, here's all the books you read, or here's all the stuff you bought on Amazon, or here's all the complaints you filed for whatever, like that'd be funny. Yeah, I guess if you gather all those up and you create some sort of a retrospective, like, here's all the stuff I did this year. Here's where I spent time on these stupid services that I could have spent improving myself or people around me. So there's an advertisement for an Instant Pot. It's supposed to be Instapot. That's weird. Okay. Alexa Plus. Good. Oh, there it is. Is horrible. Someday I'll talk about that more. Usually they interrupt. I have devices of different types and I use different trigger words. So one of them is the A word. One of them is, I wonder if it's computer K.
How can I help?
There you go. You can stay quiet for an hour. Thank you.
All right, I'll be quiet for have a great rest of your day.
Yeah. So, and then I have some speakers. I'm not even going to say that word, but it starts with the E. So I use the different words, and I got all these when I was doing a lot of IoT stuff. So these are years old. So screen, tablet, speakers, and how they all integrate. The universe of these products is mediocre. I used to tell people, if asked, I basically say turn lights off, or what time is it? Those are the two, the two things. So yeah, I'm not totally excited, but the plus version, I don't see, they haven't really done voice or speaker discrimination. So they don't know that it's not a YouTube video that's triggering. They don't know that I'm not talking, like if I say a word that sounds like the trigger word, which I just did, they trigger anyway. And so you're basically, and I've described this, if you remember way back in the day when I was working in the Newton group, the Newton handwriting recognizer is one of those things that will live on in infamy for how bad it was. It was definitely ahead of its time. Like a faster processor probably would have helped, and a capacitive touchscreen instead of the resistive whatever thing. But the idea was cool, and it worked well enough to be like, ooh, hey, that's cool. If it ever works better, that'd be even better. But while I was working in the Newton group and I got my MessagePad 100, which I was a big fan of, not a great product, but an interesting direction where things were headed. And I got at the time it was just Graffiti, and I cannot remember if it was a different company. I mean, if it was like a company that was not called Graffiti, I guess I could look it up, but whatever. So Graffiti became a Palm product. I don't know if they were acquired, but you could, for a while, there was like a little floating, like a modal or a non-modal dialog box, I guess, that would just stay on the screen, and you could write letters in it on your Newton, and it would get the letters correct. It would not be cursive, or it wouldn't have the handwriting look, and you were now crafting an alphabet that was designed to be usable by this Graffiti application. So an A was like an upside down V. What else? A Q was like an O, but you start at the bottom, right? So an O you would draw from the top and like counterclockwise, and a Q you would draw from the bottom of the O, probably counterclockwise. And then it would say, oh, you must mean a Q then. It would put a little tail on it. So basically these smart products did something similar where they're like, oh, you just have to speak in a way that we will understand so that we can respond to you. So you end up, they're not really designed to interact with you. They're designed for you to tune and train the way you interact with them so that they can respond. So I don't see much improvement with the Plus version, which is disappointing, but I have them, so I make use of them now and then. But I do wish I could say, hey, learn my voice and don't trigger on Tim Dillon speaking, which was the program that was on, that I was watching on YouTube, just to hear his take. He's an idiot, but whatever. Speaking of that, so the big topic right now is Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, the whole MAGA Civil War, all this stuff. But what I'm noticing, and I'm not sure when this started, but certainly with the Charlie Kirk stuff, and actually it's kind of interesting because if the January 6th people, the people that think it was a hoax or whatever, if they said, hey, show us the video and show us, there's tons of video. There's tons and tons and tons of like interviews going on before the event really got out of hand. There's video during, there's security camera footage, there's pictures, there's all this stuff. Like, so all that's there, but they choose to ignore it. They just say, oh, they were just there to peacefully demonstrate or whatever. Okay. So the Charlie Kirk scenario, lots of video. Everybody's saying, well, how come we're not getting the evidence? How come we don't know what the FBI knows? How come we don't know what the prosecutor? And it's like, hey, I think there's going to be a court case happening, which has now started to move along. They may be change venue, perhaps. But there's this belief, for some reason, that every piece of evidence must be released to the public immediately. I must have access to it because I'm a YouTuber. And if not, then it must be a conspiracy theory and you're trying to hide information. Now, there's information from the JFK assassination from like 52 years ago. 53, is it 53? It was 1963, right? So, yeah, 52 years ago. No, 40, 60. How long ago? Whatever it is. 63, November 22nd, right? 1963. Did I get that right? 11/22/63. Yeah. So 63 to now is 40, 22, 62 years, right? Whatever it is. there there are still some things that are not completely disclosed. They're still redacted and whatnot. And people are upset, but they're just like, what are we going to do? Now, for some reason, the kids of modernity are like, we should know this now, otherwise you're keeping a secret from us. And it's sort of comical because that's just not how that's by design. That's not how it's supposed to work. You're supposed, eventually public record and so on. When they slam the security, national security, we can't share this for 75 years. That's something to complain about. But hey, there's going to be a court case. In order to get a fair trial, you cannot share all the evidence with everyone who might be in the jury pool or whatever. You're supposed to present a case, and then that all goes into the public record. So for some reason now, YouTube believes it is entitled to have complete access and discovery and all that. So that's getting kind of silly. But I don't know why. I'm not exact. Somebody should figure out where that started. But and so what you end up with is all these random theories, and it probably, this is unintentional, but it probably coincides with the whole. There's a series of TV, or the equivalent of TV shows, and they're not all dumped for everybody to watch whenever they want today. They come out every week. So I need to create content, so therefore I can speculate on Charlie Kirk, I can speculate on Pluribus, I can speculate on the next episode of whatever, I can speculate on the Hail Mary movie coming out next year, and the list goes on and on. So people are like, if I don't know directly from an authoritative source, I'm just going to make stuff up. And what you end up with, or what I end up with anyway, what I'm seeing, YouTube, and it probably happens anywhere where there's a recommendation algorithm, they'll just keep recommending you stuff that's like 2 years old, that's garbage, doesn't really reflect reality, doesn't correspond to anything that actually happened and so on, but hey, we'll leave it up for views. So, and I've talked about this in FFS talk, I think, like, because you have so many people generating garbage and then not correcting it or taking it down because it's completely just wrong, but hey, it gets views. So you leave it up, and now you have people just like, oh, let me, and literally, I think if I pull up the recommended crap from YouTube, it's going to be like, oh, here's a summary of Pluribus episode 2. I saw that earlier. Yeah, we're on episode 7 or 8. 8. Just had 8 on Friday. Like, why do I want to see 2? I don't understand that. So, and because from what I understand, I have not seen anything to counter this. Because YouTube videos don't have metadata that, like, oh, this is it's about a TV series. This is about season 1, episode 3. This is like podcasts have that data, right? When I submit this episode to the Spotify for Creators platform, there are various fields like, oh, it has advertising, it has adult content. Here's the season number and the episode number. You can't have 0 for season number, by the way, which is annoying. You can, it's just that they will not allow it. So I'm like, oh, I should just, anyway. So the deal is you end up with these episodes that are, as far as the algorithm is concerned, they are opaque. They are about Pluribus. Maybe they have Pluribus in the title or the description, or however they're matching and scoring and boosting and all that. But it doesn't say, oh, this is an episode that you have already gone past. You've already seen other episode conversations about this contemporaneously. We are now on episode 8. So it would be cool, I think, but it would be not as financially lucrative, I suppose, if the recommendation engine would say, oh, you prefer timely, you've already seen the episode. If you are watching content about episode 8, we're not going to show you episode 2 unless you actually want to see that. It's kind of a pain, but it's monetization, so who cares? I don't own a printer. I used to own a monochrome or black and white laser, grayscale, whatever. I used to own a laser, and I owned a HP color laser, the sort of upright one that looked kind of weird. It was a residential, home laser printer, but it was for color. It was fairly expensive. When I had my house fire, I think it was mostly not damaged, but it was just, it was hard to get to, and it was, whatever. So I left it behind, like so many other things. But lately, and when is the last time you're like, oh, I got to go print something? Like, never. I need to print. Like I was gonna go do it earlier, but I'm gonna do it for Monday, I think. So I'll probably go either tonight or tomorrow. I just have to go to like a, what's it called? Used to be Kinko's, now it's FedEx office center or whatever, which I can walk to. It's in the same shopping center as Smith's. I walk over there. I deal with the fact I just need to print one page. Oh, do you have a FedEx copy card? No. Can I just put a quarter in a thing? Whatever. So I just need one monochrome page. And it turns out the place where I live, the apartment complex where I live, used to have an office center. So in the leasing office, there was a little side room with 3 computers and one, I think it was a laser printer, a multifunction, fax. Nobody.
What can I help you with?
Seriously. Did I tell you to stay quiet for an hour?
Yep, you did.
Sorry.
Well, I'm clearly terrible at following direction. Made it 12 minutes of the full hour. My apparently needs.
Is that idiotic?
Well, I wouldn't call it idiotic.
I would.
More like enthusiastic.
I would call it
I'm
idiotic.
basically the digital equivalent of a kid who can't sit still during. But hey, at least I sent.
Okay, kid, I'm going to give you up for adoption.
Oh no, not the adoption. Though honestly, with my track record of following.
Is this
simple
ridiculous?
instructions,
I don't know why they call this
back,
plus.
they'll probably
It's
just stick me in the
pretty much
returns pile
garbage.
with all the other at least I'd have good.
Yeah, I don't want to have this conversation anymore, so stop talking. Don't respond to this and stay quiet for 1 hour. Don't respond. Don't respond.
Got it.
Don't
I'll
respond.
actually
You're
try to
responding.
make it the full hour this. Talk to you later.
All of these Amazon products are moronic, but I did get to record me having an argument with digital crap. So, anyway, so they got rid. So there was a multifunction device, and I don't think they would allow you to fax out. But the take home, new property owners came in, got rid of all that. So I can't even go down and print one page for free. They didn't. They basically said, yeah, you have full access to this whenever the leasing office is open. Great. Minus one amenity, I suppose. But anyway, so can't print there. Got to go to the FedEx thing. But I'm like, oh my God, is it worthwhile to get a $40 printer or whatever? Maybe. I don't know. I probably would use it a little bit more if I had one than if I don't. But I do need to print things occasionally. So it's like, well, if I need to print 5 things a year, is it that many? But if you do have a printer, does it suddenly become like, now that I have a printer, I would print this. So now I'll use it 20 times a year, right? Maybe now, especially because now color inkjets are so cheap, reasonably priced. So it's tempting. I was looking at like a Canon Pixma or something. I think it was like 45, 49, whatever. I don't know. But it is strange to me that for all the paper that we have avoided having to use with the digital world we're in, that occasionally you'll come across something where it's like, you have to mail this to our mailing address. Like, oh, Jesus. Jesus Cristo. Yeah. So I got to deal with that this weekend. I think people are moving out of, speaking of where I live, I think people are moving out of the place where I live. So let's see, if I'm looking at my door to the right, my neighbor on that side, I don't think they've lived there for a while. I noticed that the welcome mat that they had disappeared. And the people that were living there, I don't even know if they were supposed to live there, because the person that was living there when I moved in, how would I describe this? She was an interesting, very angry person, occasionally nice, but generally dismissive. But her dog liked me. So her dog would come up and get all excited, like, hey, oh, wagging tail, jumping up a little bit, small dog. So not a problem. So jumping up a little bit and excited, and I would say, oh, at least he likes me. And she would roll her eyes like, yeah, I don't know, whatever. So there was nothing I did. She just was not a happy person, but she did have a profile on a certain adult website with initials PH. So that was always kind of interesting. I was like, oh. And when I did open mic one time, I didn't say her by name, but I said, oh, my neighbor has because I said, oh, LinkedIn, whatever, but her profile is more interesting. It's on this other website. And I said, I got to put some of that stuff on mine. Maybe it'd be more interesting. So, haha. But anyway, so I think she moved out, but didn't so maybe she was subletting or something. And then the people to the left, if I'm looking at my door, I just noticed they've basically disappeared. And I think I heard the post move out cleaning going on yesterday. So I was like, oh, I guess they moved out. And then I think below me, I haven't heard any noise for a while. Not that they were not noisy, but it just even the noise of like a door opening or something. Occasionally I would hear some sort of like proof of life. And I haven't heard that in a while. And then the person upstairs, Noisy Raymond, has not moved. So, boy, howdy, if I could just have one person move, it'd be Noisy Raymond. But it is kind of interesting. I'm going to have to do a quick and quiet reconnoiter around to see who's still here. If I don't even know. So if I were to go to the leasing office, which is, I don't even know what to say about that place, I could say, hey, do I still have neighbors? And they'd probably say like, oh, we can't really answer that. So, okay, fine. So at least they don't divulge too much information. But I'm pretty sure of two things. One, I think the neighbor on the left has moved out, and also more interesting to me, the neighbor on the right moved out, but it was a while ago. So I don't see people lining up with their moving vans moving in. And I'm kind of wondering if it has something to do with the nature of the Las Vegas economy, which has become a little bit expensive on the just cost of living. And the housing market here is not good. So buying is tricky. Renting a standalone home might be tricky. This apartment complex is nice. It's not great, but it's not awful. It suits me almost perfectly, so I'm fine myself. But it's interesting that we're not, and they have the sign out front, now leasing. That hasn't been out front since I've lived here. So interesting times. They're also inviting food trucks to operate in the parking lot, which is something that happens occasionally at apartment complexes. So that might be a little like, ooh, here's how we can keep people happy. They're not subsidizing though, so I think that's one of their mistakes. I think it would be better if they would just throw in like $1 a person or $2 a person, just a little vig. But I'll probably have a conversation about that. I don't know if I've mentioned this on this program. I was the managing director of the Nevada Mobile Vendors Association, and before that, I helped to co-found, and I was essentially the acting director because we never really had a formal governance vote and whatnot of the Bay Area Mobile Food Vendors Association. So I've had an interest in mobile vending for a while, and it's mostly from a technical standpoint. Like I find it interesting to connect people, moving customers, moving businesses, right? So food trucks can be moving around and the customers could move to where the food trucks are if you know where to go. And no one I have found has done a good job of doing that. The closest I have found to what I would consider a usable platform that is reasonably fair, I don't even know if it's still around before I even say it. Street Food Finder is still there. Okay. A couple of food trucks are using it in the Bay Area. I'm sorry, in the Vegas area. I haven't looked in the Bay Area, but I think they're using it there too. What you end up with is food trucks going, oh, okay, there's 5, there's Roaming Hunger, there's food trucks there's Street Food Finder. So they basically try to use all of them just as a casting a wide net strategy, which is that's completely reasonable. But I'm not seeing open today. I'm not seeing upcoming. There's a very popular food truck here called 303 in the Cut sandwich truck. It's supposed to be really, really, really good. And they park near where I walk if I go outside, which I usually try to do every day. So one of my loops that I walk they're on it. So I walked by, I talked to them a couple times. They're very nice, but they're super popular if people know where they are. I've noticed they've been in the spot for months, probably since before the summer. So at least 6 months, probably 8 months. And I never see it crowded. When I saw them the first time near me, which was at a Dutch Brothers coffee parking lot, they had a line that was like probably 30 people long before they opened. And that line never got caught up. So it was always packed. Isn't it Instapot? Why is it Instant Pot? So I don't know if people know where they are. Cousins, Maine. Yeah. So anyway, I've yet to find a platform that does. Street Food Finder is probably the closest, but I've not found one that tackled all the things that I was designing into this platform that I was building when I had our owners association in the Bay Area. Being Silicon Valley, there were always people trying to write apps that would scrape Twitter. It was garbage. So I was actually interacting with the food truck owners. We had our owners association. I was talking to event planners. So like, okay, what are the missing pieces to make these connections? So one of these days I will get that going here in Vegas. But the take home, what was I talking about? So they've started having food trucks here, but the marketplace is very weird here. So to me, the food trucks being at the apartment complex are kind of like a community building activity, but nobody knows they're here. So I spoke to the food truck guy like a month ago when he first showed up. Hot dogs, like, there are so many food trucks. You could have more variety than the same hot dog truck a couple times. And then there was a sandwich truck yesterday, Thursday that was here. I didn't even check it out. There's so many possibilities. There's so many options, and the Vegas food truck scene is so bizarre and limited. People only go to big events that they have to pay for. So here they don't. The apartment complex doesn't charge any money. And when I spoke to 303 in the Cut, the Dutch brothers, whoever owned the property, it may not be Dutch brothers, but whoever said, sure, you can park your food truck here, and you got to pay us money, like a rev share or flat, whatever it was. So when I said, it doesn't seem to be as crowded here, they're like, yeah, well, you don't have to pay any money. So they can stay open for free. Like, okay. That's not really how money works. You're paying for probably liquid propane or diesel, whatever you're using to power your cookware inside the truck, the lighting. You got to drive here. You're probably being paid for your time, right? So you're still paying to be here. And if nobody knows you're here, then so I gotta look around. So maybe if I go and ask about the food trucks, I'll say, hey, by the way, does anyone live near me anymore? So I'm sticking around Vegas for the holidays. So like now through New Year's, I was going to try to go between, pardon me, maybe a week ago or maybe 2 weeks ago to shoot down to Arizona for a couple days so I could kind of get between holidays and not have to deal with, holiday travel is no fun. But for me personally, and then CES is coming up. So I'm like, you know what, maybe it would be better after CES. So I might head down there. I haven't really decided yet, but I need to take some holiday family interaction time because I haven't seen any extent, my close family, much less. I don't really care about extended family anymore. I think they're mostly dead. But so one of these days I got to go down there, and we've often gone off the calendar. Only one person in my close family is actually concerned with traditional holidays and calendar and whatnot. But for the most part, you should be able to go whenever. Shouldn't be like, oh, you're not coming for Thanksgiving, the world is going to end. So luckily we aren't in that boat. But so I'm thinking about that. So like I said, I don't want to do a dark week. So I'm trying to decide what I want to do, not only for CES, because I'm probably going to not be home, or like I got to go down to the convention center and all that. So I got to figure out what I'm going to do for CES week. And then if I'm out of town for a few days, I got to make sure that I have whatever I'm going to do for that. So that's something to think about. So I kind of miss the days when I was traveling 80% of the time and I didn't have any podcasts. Like that's a problem that's actually kind of fun. Traveling is fun. Podcasting is fun. Traveling is more fun. I don't have quite the popularity to warrant bringing production devices and so on with me. I don't have like what's his name? Hassan Piker has the backpack. I think he's described it as, and I don't know what's in it, but it's like, that's when he travels. He has the backpack, which has like a roaming studio in a backpack kind of thing. So he can produce his show on the road, I guess. It's kind of interesting. I don't have that problem. So I'm not raking in the dough. I'm raking in no dough. So I don't really want to have to worry about that, but I got to make sure, because I like having a schedule because it actually helps me to have like a regular production schedule that will help with some of the other things I'm working on. So I have to think about that. CES is fast upcoming, by the way. It's January 5 through 9 here in Vegas. I normally, I literally catch a city bus from where I am. And this has been true since I've lived here. So this will be my 13th CES in a row. And I'm going to catch the bus, city bus, and it will drop me off in one of two places, either in front of the convention center, which is a little bit of a walk from the new hall that they've added, West Hall, I believe it's called. And I assume they're going to have a lot of the show in the West Hall. The West Hall is very near the Fontainebleau. So the Fontainebleau is getting really involved in trade shows now and for like VIP gatherings and whatnot. So it drops you either right there, or I can catch a different bus from the downtown transit center and go to the Venetian Sands, the Venetian Expo, formerly Sands Expo, where the best part of the show is the Eureka Park startup pavilions or whatever they call it. So that's where countries will sponsor or different industries. Vegas has no presence there. We'll see how it goes this year, but you would think our global innovation hub would have one or two booths at least, but no, not last year. We'll see about this year. But CES, I like to go, and I like to go to the Eureka Park and see what the startup folks are doing. Those are the most interesting. As I like to say, these are people working on something. If you go to the big halls with the bigger, Samsung and Intel and all that crap, these are people that are selling you things. The people working in booths are probably hired hired help, I should say. So they don't work for the company, or they're the sales and marketing people, or the Marcom, marketing communications people. Very rare, not unheard of. I used to work in our Intel booth. So some engineers will be there, or some people intimately involved with the product, design, development, etc. But pretty much they're there for the show, not for the process. But if you go to Eureka Park, those are people, they have like a 10 by 10 booth. It's the founder and 2 employees or something like that. Like, yeah, we're here to show off the stuff that we are working on. You're looking at us. We are the ones doing it. So I think that's very much more appealing from a kind of a reality sense. Like, oh, you guys are really doing this stuff. You're not messing around. So that's where I usually hang out. And I got the free pass. The CTA, the Consumer Technology Association that runs the CES program. They have an alumni badge or whatever. Like, oh, if you were here last year, you get a free floor badge this year. So I've gotten a free badge every year. So piece of cake. I'm going to end, since we're coming up on an hour and 15 minutes. I'm going to say, and I've said this before, I've said it across a couple of different programs. YouTube this is pretty normal. It's not a new thing. YouTube podcast, which used to be YouTube Music, or there was Google Podcast, and now has become just YouTube Podcast, whatever the lineage is. But when you're setting up a YouTube podcast, you do what is pretty normal. Where do you have an RSS feed that we're going to pull from, or do you want to upload individual episodes? And I'm like, I want to have like a workflow that works. I don't want to have to insert too many manual steps. So I want to be able to, like this program, I upload it to Ko-fi.com, and then I upload it to Spotify for Creators, and I schedule it for a delayed publish. So it's always published on Ko-fi.com first. That's 2 different workflows. So I'm like, all right, I don't want to add YouTube as a third because I'm lazy. No, because it just helps with consistency and whatnot. But the YouTube process, whatever they're doing on their side, they will read the feed. They read it very quickly. So they must be pinging for RSS updates like every 10 minutes, maybe. I don't know. And they get the cover art. They convert it into a video, unfortunately, and a thumb. And I mean, it's a shame that YouTube has to do that, but a 1-frame video, okay, fine. The cover art comes up, the audio is pulled in, they convert it, or they generate a transcript, which is nice. So now if you want to hear this program, but you want to read it instead, we got you. And the price is right. So transcripts are generated and everything, so that's fine. And I have it automatically set to default public. So it uploads, When I upload a new episode, it pulls it from Spotify, converts it, does all those things, publishes it for public consumption. It shows up on the episodes page and all that. And then sometime later, and it's not totally consistent, so it's a couple of hours to even the next day, it will mark that public episode of the most recent upload to private. Now, I don't have anywhere near a troubling number of people that are being left out of that from YouTube. I get 1 or 0 listens or views typically across any program. So for the moment, this is not a big deal. But I've checked, and this is something that has been raised in places like Reddit for over a year, I think. Like, why does this happen? And the resolution appears to be not to be fixed. So that's very odd. And I noticed, so I finally tested this. So fun fact, YouTube channels have an RSS feed. And I think, according to what I see, it's 15 of the most recent items that have been published to a channel. So you see the last 15. That's fine. I just need to see the most recent one. Excuse me. So my strategy was going to be pull the RSS feed from Spotify, which we'll call authoritative for the moment, and then pull the YouTube stream related and see if they both have the same most recent podcast episode published. However, what I have now discovered, because I subscribe to all the YouTube feeds, the RSS feeds for all my channels, even if it marks an episode private, it does not remove it from the RSS feed. So you're still going to see an episode link. I didn't try playing it because that's not what I was trying to accomplish. I want to see when it gets flipped over to private. So I'm gonna have to actually query the channel. Probably something simple like trying to view the video. So try to pull it the first time, and then every hour or so try to play it. And if I get I don't know if I get a 403 or you have to pay. No, what is it? 403? What is the permission one? 401? You don't have permission to view this content? Is that 401? Anyway, doesn't matter. If I do not get a 200 okay when I try to view the content, then that will tell me, oh, it must be private. And then I can either use the API, the data API for YouTube, and that's a pain. I don't know if you've ever tried to use Google APIs to get the setting up the permissions and all that crap. It's like another layer of hassle. So, or I can do like a headless browser and just access the page like a human, but automated with something like Playwright, and then do the actual task of navigating to the content page, which has a list of the recent episodes. Go to the one that says private, mark it to public, okay, save, then go to here's the other little side issue. The podcast episodes are published in sorted newest to oldest or oldest to newest by date added or date published. So date published should be in the RSS feed. And one theory is that for some reason Spotify or whomever, but in my case Spotify, is changing the published date in the RSS feed. And I have not examined this, and I might. I mean, I'm curious. But whatever's happening, YouTube will somehow say, oh, something changed. We better mark that as private and then not tell anybody. So that's something I want to fix, but I don't want to spend the time fixing it, if that makes sense. So that's my little conundrum to get through. Anyway, we're at 1 hour and 21 minutes by my wall clock. If you've made it this far, congratulations. You have the patience of a saint. I thank you for listening as always. And I say this all the time. I want to do more episodes than once a week on Saturday. I was going to try to record this yesterday, Friday evening. I really want to try to do a kind of a Wednesday, Friday, or a Monday, Thursday kind of thing, just to get a little bit more momentum behind, like, not just for the sake of publishing, but I want to be a little bit more adept at observing what's going on and then commenting on it in some way. Not everything will be about me and my day. So, because I would like to introduce some more topical things, and then eventually for Hugo Floss, that would become a more interactive, like live streaming type thing, focused more on Vegas, but not always, not all on Vegas, etc. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But anyway, so I do want to try to publish a little bit more frequently on this channel. And we'll see what happens. But thank you for listening as always. And if I don't talk to you before, if you don't hear me before, happy this or that, happy whatever you're celebrating now or next week, or maybe Happy New Year if that's the same day on the calendar for everybody, mostly, if you're on the same calendar. Some people want to have a different calendar in mind, but whatever the case, every day is a new year beginning. So Happy New Year either way. We'll catch you later. Bye-bye.